Emergencies happen for our dogs and for our cats. Are you looking to learn more about natural pet health and wellness? You've come to the right place. Click the link to subscribe to Veterinary Secrets. This is exactly what you should have in a pet first aid kit to potentially save your pet's life. After practicing veterinary medicine for over 20 years, I literally saw thousands of emergencies. And there were many instances where the big difference was that we had a pet parent that was prepared, they had a basic understanding of pet first aid, and what they did made a big difference in terms of ultimately deciding whether or not their dog lived or died. Fortunately for most people, for most pets, that's not the case. But there are many circumstances. Perhaps you're like way away on a hike. You can't immediately rush into your emergency veterinarian. There's some type of weather event. You can't get into the emerge clinic, or the emerge clinic is backed up. They can't see your dog or cat in a timely manner, or what you can do makes a huge difference. And that all starts out by having a well-stocked and a proper pet first aid kit. Number one, you want to have an information card with your veterinary emerge clinic number. You can obviously keep this on your phone. Here's mine, Nelson Animal Hospital, 250-352-7861. Number two, numbers for animal poison control. Here's our number for the ASPCA Animal Poison Control, 888-426-4435. Number three, I want you to know what normal is for your pet's temperature, pulse, and respiration. Because if you don't know what normal is, you're not going to know exactly when it's abnormal. Here's Tula at the bottom of my card. Her normal temperature, 38.1. A normal dog temperature is 38 to 39.2 Celsius. That's 101 to 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Her normal pulse rate is 84 beats a minute. Normal range for dogs ranges from a low of 60 for a really large giant breed dog to a high of around 120, 140. Then the R, which stands for respirations or breathing rate. The normal range for most dogs is 15 to 30 breaths a minute. Tula's is about 16. And if you can see here, I've got this recorded. For our cats, it's very similar. Normal temperatures, 38 to 39.2. That's 101 to 100.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Normal cat pulse, somewhere between 120 to 200 beats a minute. Normal respiratory rate, somewhere between 15 to upwards of 40 breaths a minute. The one other thing I'd suggest is recording your pet's weight. Tula's normal weight, about 22 pounds. Cassian's weight is about 10 pounds. So when you know what normal is, and all of a sudden you see a big change, then you know something abnormal is going on, a cause for concern. Number four, have a way to measure your dog or cat's temperature. Little new electronic, inexpensive digital thermometer. These work really well. You're measuring rectal temperatures, once again, that normal range, 101 to 102.5 degrees Fahrenheit, 38, 39.2 degrees Celsius. Because I haven't officially measured anybody's temperature, it's saying the temperature is low and it's cold in here. So yeah, it is low. Number five, I suggest you have some exam gloves. Just have a few that are just going to be put in your pet first aid kit. I mean, these are great. You need to clean wounds, properly examine your dog or cat if they're injured, even express anal glands. Get some exam gloves, super handy, super inexpensive. Number six, for lubrication, for topical wound covering, Vaseline is pretty inexpensive, works great for dogs and cats, also really good for wound covering. Use something else, such as this beeswax salve. You can do much of the same thing in a natural way. Have one of these in your pet first aid kit. Number seven, some form of adhesive tape. I mean, this is like a hockey tape. Super inexpensive white tape, sticks well for our pets. If you're trying to deal with a wound, you're trying to wrap a bandage or anything, just plain old inexpensive white tape, throw that in your pet first aid kit. Number eight, I want you to have some blunt tip scissors. So anytime you're trying to deal with a wound, you need to trim the hair around that wound. A real inexpensive, easy way to do this in the field, to do it at home regardless. Have yourself some of these blunt scissors. So you're just holding it over top, for instance, of your dog or your cat's leg, trimming the fur around the edge of the wound. But you want blunt scissors. You don't want sharp tip scissors. Things are going to cut through the skin. Get some of these for your pet first aid kit. Number nine, some alcohol antiseptic swabs. These are great. They pack really well into the pet first aid kit. Great for wound care, initial wound cleaning, even having to quickly sterilize an instrument. Number 10, but I'm going to run out of fingers and we have to get up to number 26. This is sterile saline flush. It's great for flushing wounds, wound care. Obviously, if you're in the field and you don't have any of this, just plain old water is completely fine, especially to flush a wound. Now, this is also really great to have on hand if you got something in an eye, for instance. Then you want something more sterile, such as this, you can flush the eye out as well. So even putting a small amount of this in a small container, you could add this into your pet first aid kit. Number 11, I want you to have an antiseptic cleanser. The one I prefer is this guy here, chlorhexidine. The one we used to use in veterinary practice as a surgical scrub. It comes in much smaller containers. This one is much more appropriate for a pet first aid kit. This one's already pre-diluted to 2%, so you can just use this directly out of the bottle. Squirt some of that onto a gauze. You're gonna scrub that wound really well, or just squirting it with a syringe directly into the wound itself. And this makes such a difference. Chlorhexidine is the one you wanna have. Number 14, cotton or cotton balls. These are inexpensive cotton makeup pads. So you can buy a giant amount for less than $3 or $4. Great thing to add into your pet first aid kit. This alone is great. You have to dip into that antiseptic and then initially scrub that wound. Great to wipe stuff off the surface of the wound. Say your dog has got some poison, he stepped into something, use some of these to wipe it off the surface of the skin anyway. I find these really helpful, helping clean an ear, for instance, an acute otitis. Should be in your pet first aid kit. But in veterinary practice, I didn't use cotton balls very often. Often we had these guys. This is little 2x2 gauzes. You can use the 4x4 and cut them. Makes it more cost effective. But these are great, especially when we're dealing with the initially cleaning wound, for instance. It's nice and absorbent, so it can absorb up all the chlorhexidine. You're trying to scrub that wound, for instance. Then after, you can use it at one of the layers as we're also treating the wound. So they're multi-purpose. You're going to be having to deal with wounds throughout the lifetime of your pet. Have some gauze in your pet first aid kit. Number 14, this is some gauze cling in a roll. So this is something you're going to use to wrap a wound, for instance, or wrap a leg, even support a leg that's been injured. Perhaps there's even a fracture. This is a great thing to have in. Here's a roll. This is 2x2 gauze. You can get wider rolls, smaller ones. It's great to have something like this because it's such a big multi-purpose thing. And anytime I'm trying to deal with a bandage, wrap up a wound, I'm using this gauze cling on it. Right? So you want to make sure you have some of this in your pet first aid kit. Number 15, these non-adhesive Telfa pads. So anytime we're first surfacely treating a wound, and we're going to go ahead and bandage it, you've clipped the hair around it, you've flushed it with your syringe with water and chlorhexidine, you flushed the chlorhexidine out, maybe you put something topical on like the Vaseline or the beeswax, the surface to cover the wound. The next layer is going to be a non-stick Telfa pad, especially when there's the initial wound injury, because we don't want to pull away and debride all that healing that's going to initially happen, especially if you've got a sort of a nice clean wound layer going on. You want something non-stick. So see the shiny layer here? That's going to go on next to the wound. And as you can imagine, like here, where I scraped all my corner of my thumb off, if I stuck some gauze on, I'd rip off all the healing that's going on. A little non-stick piece of Telfa pad. Awesome. That's what you want as your first layer. Get some of this. Inexpensive. You get Telfa pads everywhere. Super cheap. Throw those in your pet first aid kit. Number 16, you want the self-adhesive bandages, i.e. vet wrap. I must have gone through like gallons and gallons and gallons of this in my lifetime. Holy cow. This is by far and away my favorite bandage material. Because as you can see, it's got a little bit of stretch to it. So you don't want to make a bandage too tight. This allows you to snugly put it around say a laceration on your dog or cat's arm, but not put it on too tight because there's a little bit of stretch to it. Secondarily, see how it's self-adhesive? It's sticking to itself. You can tear it. I used to be able to tear it. I can, ta-da! There, I've quickly wrapped my wound. I've stopped it from bleeding, which is what you want, for instance. Bleeding animal, and you quickly stop them. You've covered it with something like your 4x4 gauze, firmly applied. Next thing you've done is wrap this. You wrap this vet wrap over top of it, snug it up tight onto the skin, but not too tight. You're going to compromise circulation. And what I've found is avoid the pharmacy, go to a store that supplies farmers, i.e. Farmers Supply Store. You're going to get it way less expensive. The pharmacy, way less expensive than your vet clinic. And the other thing I may want to segue in there, I haven't really dealt with specifically what you're going to do or not during these emergencies. But for instance, one of the big things you might have to deal with is your dog has been out running, he's got a stick into his groin, all of a sudden you see blood coming out. Like, the big thing you need to be able to do is, first of all, like, react appropriately in terms of calmly assess the situation. Okay, we got to stop the bleeding, get our dog to the vet clinic. But while you're doing it, you're going to have your first aid kit on hand. You're going to pack the gauze over top of the wound. If blood comes through that gauze, you put more gauze on top. And then you're going to use something that's going to firmly secure the gauze, i.e. the vet wrap. So that's why you've got all these different things as part of the pet first aid kit. Number 17, you want to have an array of different syringes, a 10 cc, 15 or 20 cc, 30 cc syringe. And these are great. Number one, just for flushing anything. You're going to flush wounds, you're going to flush eyes, you want to flush ears, you want to have a syringe. Say, for instance, your dog or cat has been poisoned, you need to give hydrogen peroxide. You can easily do it and adequately measure it when you've got a syringe. So get some syringes. Number 19, forceps and/or tweezers. These are specific veterinary ones I used to use in surgery. I would use them to grab the edge of the skin when I'm doing a spay, for instance. You don't need surgical forceps, tweezers are fine, but the point here is you want some type of instrument that you can go in and remove, say, small bits of dirt or gravel from the edge of a wound. To remove something like a splinter that's just embedded in your dog or cat's paw. Get yourself some forceps, inexpensive tweezers are completely fine. Number 20, this is a new one. I've never talked about it in a pet first aid kit. I think we should all have it. This is a tourniquet. I used to use a tourniquet exactly like this frequently in veterinary practice. Perhaps being called in on a merge, I have no one else to assist me. I need to take a blood sample or give a dog or a cat an injection. I would put this tourniquet over top of a dog or cat's forearm. I would tighten it up, sometimes even using my mouth. And the vein that would pop off on the front of your dog or cat's forearm, it's called the cephalic vein. But it's with this simple little tourniquet. It's constricting blood flow. This would be a key thing to have in any type of emergent situation. If your dog or cat has been in an accident and they injured an artery, say it's the rear leg, say it's the femoral artery, you can do things to try and control bleeding, put on gauze. It soaks through, you put more gauze on top of that, it's going to continue to soak through, even if you wrap on a tight bandage. You are not going to control that bleeding. And likely by the time you get to see an emergency veterinarian, unfortunately, your dog or cat has likely died. The single thing that's going to make the difference between life and death is having a tourniquet, right? So you're going to put it over the rear leg. You're going to tighten it up like that. You're going to put it above where the injury is, and you're going to stop that bleeding. That is the one big thing that's only going to work in that instance. Number 21, a muzzle. Many of the times our dogs and cats are injured, many animals being hit by cars. They're in pain, they don't react the way they normally would. You're trying to pick them up, bring them into the clinic. As soon as you touch them or if they're bruised and in pain, they might turn around and try to bite you. So just being able to properly stop your dog from biting is a huge thing. So to put on a muzzle, number one, if you have the tourniquet, it's really easy. You can just use this tourniquet, put it over top of your dog's muzzle, snug that up, you've got an instant muzzle. Then you can properly lift up your dog. If you don't have something like this, you don't have a fabric muzzle, you can make one. This simple gauze will act exactly like that, right? You've got this length of fabric. You're gonna put one tie over top of your dog's muzzle, right? And you're gonna tie one knot through it. You've got one throw tied, so it's snug. You're then gonna wrap it underneath your dog's muzzle, like this. You're going to tie the second one up in behind your dog's neck, kind of what I'm doing here. And you've got it tied up in behind his neck. You might even turn that into a bow. You need to be snug enough so he can't open his muzzle and bite you, but you don't want it too tight. You're going to restrict circulation. So there you've got this homemade muzzle. As you can see here, I put one knot, one tie over top of your dog's muzzle, right? And I've crossed it underneath his snout. And I snugged it up in behind his neck here, tied a little bow here. So there he's restricted. I can pick him up, he can't turn his head, and he can't bite me. So then I can properly move him, give him the emergency care he needs, get him to the emerge clinic. Number 22, I want you to have either this, a towel, or some type of emergency blanket. This emergency trail side blanket. This can be used to wrap your dog's leg. Say he's got a fracture and you need some type of support, just whip out that little towel you've got and then bandage it. Your dog can't move. You can stretch out your towel, turn this into some form of a stretcher. This way you can at least lift him. Obviously this one here, this towel is pretty bulky. So something small like this emergency trail side blanket, you can definitely duplicate that and it's a lot more packable in a first aid kit. The other thing I like is it can just provide, other layer of shelter. Your dog's injured, they can't move, it's slightly cool. Now you've got something to protect him as well. So get some form of blanket. I think it's a great idea. Something like this is probably ideal. Number 23, get some of this for your pet first aid kit, tissue glue. If your pet has a wound, you're not able to control the bleeding or you're not able to properly bandage it, having tissue glue is key. Many of these animals say they get a ear tip laceration. There's so much blood. There's blood everywhere. There's no way you're going to get a bandage to stay on that. All you need is a little bit of this super glue, aka tissue glue. You put a little dot on the tip of your dog's ear on either side of where that wound is, and you just press the skin together, and you would not believe, well, I think it works a lot better in real skin as opposed to lamb chops fake skin, but it closes right up. And I've seen this so many times in practice. Oh, there it is, closed up now. Almost instantly stops the bleeding. Super inexpensive. It's going to last you a long, long time. Get some of this for your first aid kit. Number 24, to induce vomiting in an emergency. Have 3% hydrogen peroxide in your pet first aid kit. Of all the many emergent situations you're going to have to deal with, poisonings are way up on the list. And so often, if you can just induce vomiting, you can get rid of whatever toxin your dog or your cat has consumed. That's it. It's curative. It's not going to lead to kidney disease. It's not going to lead to seizures. A standard dog and cat dose is 1 teaspoon or 5 cc's, half of this 10 cc syringe, per 10 pounds of body weight. You give it the dose one time. If your dog or cat doesn't vomit, you can repeat it one more time in 10 minutes. And you're giving it straight, undiluted. Obviously, you can have a small amount in your pet first aid kit or get a small bottle of the 3% hydrogen peroxide. Number 25, pain relief for dogs and cats. The one holistic treatment that is both safe and effective for dogs and cats, it is this, CBD cannabidiol. It's just a great thing to have on hand, have part of your pet first aid kit. Right? We're looking at pretty typical doses, 1 drop or 3 milligrams per 10 pounds of body weight, and that can be given twice daily. Number 26, for serious acute allergic reactions. Have some of this on hand, Benadryl or diphenhydramine. If your dog or cat happens to have a serious anaphylactic reaction, the one big thing that's pretty fast acting, pretty effective for most like serious allergic reactions is this. It's the Benadryl. So I think it's just a good option to have this in your pet first aid kit. We're looking at pretty typical doses. It's 1 milligram per pound of body weight. 25-pound tool should be getting half a 50 milligram tablet. And last but not least, for acute vomiting, you just can't control it. Once again, you're away from the clinic. At the very least, have some gravel on hand. This is gravel. The name of the drug is dimenhydrinate. Gravel's safe for dogs, safe for cats. It's reasonably effective. Standard dose, 1/4 of a 50 milligram tablet per 10 pounds of body weight. So I know, yes, that's a pretty exhausting list, and I don't expect you to have all of those in your pet first aid kit, but I do think you should have the majority of those in some form of kit. And that's available in case your dog or cat is in need of emergent, urgent care. And at least you have something, you're actually prepared. And sure, you can do a basic veterinary exam. I've shown that multiple times. We'll link to some of those videos that are on the YouTube channel. Have an adequately stocked pet first aid kit. One of the things I encourage you to get is this. Get a proper working functioning tourniquet. It's one of the few things you may need. Like you're gonna have all the bandage material. That's what you're gonna use most of the time. But you're out somewhere, this could really save your pet's life. The one last thing I want to leave you with is one of the acronyms I always think about anytime I'm approaching an animal in a first aid situation. The acronym is called D.R.A.B.C's. D, it stands for danger. Keep yourself and others around you safe. R stands for response. Check to see if your dog or cat are responsive by calling in their name, by touching them. A stands for airway. Is there a patent open airway? B stands for breathing. Are they breathing? C stands for circulation. Is there a pulse and or a heartbeat? And S, it stands for send. Send someone to ask and get help. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Veterinary Secrets of my updated pet first aid kit. And just in general, some things I think it's really important that you're able to do in case your dog or cat is ever in need of emergency care. Click up there to subscribe, hit the bell to sign up for notifications, and when you click that link directly in the box below, I can send you a copy of my free book.